All right, let's get right into this one. Picture this. It's the summer of 2026. The NBA offseason is absolutely in full swing, and a massive blockbuster trade is on the table. We're talking about the kind of trade that literally shakes the foundations of the entire league. But then, abruptly, it comes to a screeching halt. Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly why one of the most significant player movements in recent memory was frozen dead in its tracks. We're going to unpack secret deals, a sprawling salary cap investigation, and a billion-dollar franchise's reputation that is currently hanging in the balance. So the big question we've got to ask right up front, did someone try to cheat the system? Look, Kawhi Leonard has always been different, right? He's the ultimate quiet superstar. He rarely talks to the media, totally avoids the spotlight, and just lets his unbelievable two-way game do the talking. Yet somehow, this silent assassin ended up at the absolute center of a massive financial scandal. It's his incredibly dramatic mystery, and it's playing out not on the hardwood, but in corporate boardrooms and behind closed doors. Just look at the sheer magnitude of what was actually at stake here. On one side of this frozen deal, Toronto receives Kawhi Leonard. I mean, what a monumental reunion that would be. And on the flip side, the LA Clippers received Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, and a massive haul of draft assets. This was completely franchise-altering for both sides. For Toronto, it was the return of a hero. For LA, a huge pivot toward a brand new future. Both of these organizations were totally ready to pull the trigger until the NBA itself stepped in and said, hold on, everything stops. Now, to really grasp why freezing this specific deal is such a high-stakes move, you just have to look at Kawhi's undeniable resume. Started as the 15th pick back in 2011, right? Then he grows into a Finals MVP with the Spurs in 2014. And of course, that legendary 2019 run where he delivers Toronto's first ever franchise championship. He brings the aura of an absolute winner wherever he goes. That exact same year, 2019, he signs with the LA Clippers, bringing a pedigree that completely shifted the gravity of the whole league. Because, when the Clippers brought him home in 2019, the widespread belief was Kawhi Leonard could transform the Clippers forever. And under billionaire owner Steve Ballmer, the Clippers had these massive, massive championship ambitions. They basically built everything around Kawhi, invested heavily, built a brand new arena, and were just desperate to cement themselves as one of the NBA's premier franchises. So they had an immense motive to do whatever it took to keep their superstar happy and surrounded by elite talent. But here's where we hit a wall: salary cap circumvention. Basically, this means bypassing league limits by using hidden alternative methods to provide extra compensation to a player. Think of it like, imagine your boss secretly paying you extra through a totally different shell company so it doesn't show up on the official payroll. For NBA fans, the cap exists strictly to create competitive balance. If a team secretly bypasses those limits, the league sees it as a literal existential threat to fairness. You just can't say, hey, we'll pay you $50 million on the books, and oh, by the way, this other company over here will slide you a few million more. Let's ground these abstract rules in some concrete reality, because the league isn't just chasing rumors here. They are digging into specific financial arrangements. First up, there was a reported sponsorship agreement with a company called Aspiration, which, ironically enough, is now bankrupt. Investigators really wanted to know, was this sponsorship just a hidden vehicle to funnel extra cash? And the whole thing got even messier when reports surfaced about a second undisclosed sponsorship. This one involved Ductronics, which is literally the company connected to the Clippers Arena video board system. The league is actively probing to see if this relationship was just another backdoor attempt to dodge salary rules. And that brings us to the most important number in this entire breakdown: 0. Let that sink in. That is exactly how many dollars a team is allowed to secretly add outside of a strictly regulated NBA contract. Absolutely 0. The league's competitive balance relies 100% on every single team playing by the exact same financial rulebook. If teams with infinitely deep pockets could just invent undisclosed sponsorships to boost player pay, the entire structure of the NBA would basically collapse overnight. Which leads us right back to why the Toronto Raptors pulled the emergency brake on this whole blockbuster trade. It really just boils down to this: Toronto did not want the risk. Look, they desperately wanted Kawhi back. He's a legend up there, the guy who brought them their only ring. But they're also a really smartly run organization. If the NBA finalized this investigation after the trade went through and decided to punish Kawhi or void his contract, Toronto would be the ones left holding the bag. They absolutely refused to inherit those potentially devastating consequences, so they publicly announced, nope, we are pausing this trade until the investigation is completely closed. So what exactly were the Raptors so terrified of? Well, if the Clippers are actually found guilty of circumvention, the league could drop the hammer with unprecedented force. We are talking about massive financial fines, the kind that sting even the wealthiest owners, the loss of future draft picks, which literally cripples a team's ability to rebuild, potential suspensions for any executives involved, and, maybe the most concerning for a trade partner, contract consequences. The league actually has the power to review and potentially alter player contracts tied to these violations. No way Toronto was risking that. Now, to be totally fair, there are two sides to every investigation. The Clippers, led by Steve Ballmer, have vehemently denied any wrongdoing here. Their defense is incredibly straightforward. They state that these sponsorship agreements were entirely legitimate, standard business deals. They insist that absolutely no rules were intentionally broken, and they firmly maintain that Kawhi's contract is completely valid under NBA law. Plus, the organization has made it a point to emphasize they are fully cooperating with the league, handing over whatever information is requested, all to protect this premier reputation they've worked so hard to build since 2019. All right, so where does all of this leave us? Well, we're currently staring down three very different, incredibly dramatic paths. Path 1. Kawhi and the Clippers are completely cleared. No violations found. The trade immediately resumes. Kawhi heads back to Toronto, and the Clippers get their new young core. Path 2. The Clippers are punished. If the violations are confirmed, we're looking at historic penalties that could derail the franchise for a decade, and who knows what happens to Kawhi's contract then. Or Path 3. The uncertainty just drags on, and the trade totally collapses. Toronto simply walks away from the table, the Clippers are forced to keep Kawhi, and the entire landscape of the NBA offseason is permanently altered. You know, Kawhi Leonard's career has always been defined by these unforgettable on-court moments, that legendary bouncing buzzer beater against Philly, that incredible championship run for Toronto. But right now, we're looking at a defining moment happening far away from the hardwood, buried deep inside NBA corporate offices. And it leaves every single basketball fan asking, will the biggest mystery of Kawhi's career change the NBA forever? Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about one superstar player or even one massive trade. It's about the very rules that protect the integrity and fairness of the entire league. And how this investigation concludes, yeah, that's going to echo through the NBA for years to come.